I prefer the coffee.
What up, though? It's your boy Coffee back with another one, and right here is an exclusive. This space was not recorded, but I got my guy IAN SCHWARTZMAN up here, the manager of the Joe Budden podcast, talking about podcasts that's been breaking up, like right here, the Need to Know with Savon and Alex. Man, salute to them guys, and also the bigger picture with Elliot Wilson, DJ Head, and Jeremy Hitch. Like a lot of podcasts is just like I don't think it's breaking up because of the chemistry, but other factors. And Ian is giving guys the pointers and saying that he gave guys the blueprint. Start your own Patreon. But you guys give me your comment, like, subscribe, enjoy, man. Like this right here is for you guys. Salute. Let's go.
What'd you say?
Like I said, accounting.
Accounting.
Oh my God. Prolific, man. That is prolific. You really did it this time. Um, yeah, like I was saying, things that actually break up podcasts are the things I'm listing, and yeah, an array of other things could have uh, been wrong in any infrastructure too. So that being said, there's a laundry list of things that could break up a podcast, but I think what the core of the reasoning behind podcast breaking up are really the inability to create a business as opposed to getting a deal. And I think what we're watching is an exodus of big companies supporting independent podcasts the way they used to with these exclusive licensing deals. And you're seeing some of your favorite podcasters who took licensing deals instead of building a direct to consumer relationship with their fans falling apart when the bag stops or when the money or the license stops. And so I think we're about to witness a mass exodus of casual podcasters.
The
Do you think that you speak from a privileged point of view because the fan base that you kind of garner is a little bit more loyal than the
No,
average hip hop fan?
no, I don't speak from a privilege anything. I built something with Joe and a team that was directly meant to go a different direction than the rest of the podcast ecosystem. And we knew what we were doing when we were betting on ourselves. And I think other people were doing their best to bet on money that was present and available because of hype built around an emerging podcast industry. And I
do you
think
think
the people that continue to go for exclusive licenses as opposed to uh, going into the direct to consumer market are seeing some of the struggle pains that you're witnessing today as a
You
fan.
think I've been looking at some of the work Joe does with spaces. You think they need to
Yeah.
start doing that? Because I was seeing Savon talk about how his Patreon was at $5,000 at one point. They didn't
Yeah.
double down on it, so now they're in a
hmm
position where their Patreon doesn't even touch 5,000. I would assume it's sub 1,000 now. Uh,
I mean, who 5,000, 1,000? It doesn't matter. The point is, Danny, to answer your question, I think the problem people have is investing their own money into their own brands. They're privileged. And to answer whoever just asked me if I'm speaking from a point of privilege, no, I think people who don't even deserve the privilege speak from a point of privilege and they think they're just owed money because they make a show instead of getting their hands dirty and learning how to build a business that can depend on itself instead of a company giving them a check to license their material out to them. And I think we're seeing laziness play out in quite a few different forms. And I'm not speaking about the bigger picture in that specifically, but I think as a whole, you're going to see the podcast industry fall apart right now.
do you think it's a mistake not to double down when it comes to like Patreon and just direct to consumer
Yes.
platform? All right.
There's a reason I make it a mission of mine to tweet out once a month. If you have a podcast, you need a Patreon. There's a reason I say that. It's not because I'm in business, just in business with Patreon, because that does play a role, of course. But the other side of it is we're proof of concept. Like we turned a concept into a reality and then kept doubling down. And every chance we had to go the other route for 100 times more money, we chose to keep betting on ourselves because we saw that there's no ceiling attached to direct to consumer market. If your fan base grows and they're loyal and they believe in you, then they will subscribe. Whereas if you're under an exclusive license to, let's say, Spotify, your fan base could grow to 10 million listeners, but you're still getting that same licensing check that you signed 2 years before.
Yeah.
And then once they cut that off, you're dead.
Why don't you at least try to be different and like at least promote Substack? Don't they have a Patreon like feature now? Come on. Just,
There's a ton. Listen, there's a ton of companies out there. Patreon is not the only one. I'm not going to sit here and act like Patreon's the only thing that's available. There are. You can go build your own app and go direct to consumer. Build a Shopify and sell your products straight from there. Sell digital files. There's a million directions you can go. The one thing I can't stand hearing is I have no money to get it started. Well, it costs no money to get a Patreon started. What does it cost? Your time, your energy, some thought, some strategy. People are lazy. That's what we're watching. We're watching the podcast industry try to mimic the music industry, get quick checks. And what we're seeing is the downfall of what could have been successful businesses and shows go right down the drains because there wasn't enough effort put in on the front end.
Savon said the DEI stuff really caught him off guard. Apparently, there was DEI company or DEI budgets that were slashed. Is that anything that affected y'all or?
No, I don't. I'm not even sure how that would affect the podcast.
Well, he was. They said they were getting net 30, net 60, net 90 deals to promote
Yeah.
DEI initiatives like ads.
So he's
Yeah, they were
talking
getting
about
asked.
advertising payout schedule. So I would just say to Savon, I would say to his face, negotiate better terms. Say I can't operate under anything but net 30. Like that's my business model. And if you're an advertiser trying to advertise on my platform, if you can't deliver payments in net 30, then I can't do business with you.
No, he said the payments were gone. Like they just because of Trump's election, I guess like
Okay.
McDonald's. I remember them doing a lot of buys on shows that nobody fucking watched because it was
Hmm.
it was like it was DEI type stuff. But
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
but
saying that.
once again, that's to the point I always make. It's like pick and choose your partners wisely. You don't just take a check because there's a check out there. Not all money is good money.
I don't know, man. I just you got
Well,
that
listen, Danny, I
big
know,
show.
I
You got
know,
you got you got Joe. You got
Danny,
Flip. You got all those guys out there,
Danny,
man.
Danny. I know. I could speak from a place of I actually know. And so let's not play radio games. I know. I don't want to come in here and bullshit. You're having an interesting conversation, and it's something I could lend real guidance and advice to. And I know, and I'm telling you, not all money is good money.
Mm.
Ian, do you think it was a mistake for Savon to acquire a podcast studio, like get rent?
Absolutely not. I give Savon a lot of credit for stepping 5 degrees outside of his business to think bigger.
I
I
disagree.
don't know how that affected his consistency or his workflow or the stressors that come with having to run a brick and mortar facility, but I would never say it's a bad idea. I think he had the right intentions in mind, and I don't know the details of why he's putting the podcast under. Do you guys? Did he say why?
Wait,
I don't
but
know.
Savon did say that like they did underutilize the studio, even though they got it, they didn't record as much as they should have. So that's why I was saying it was a mistake because they're paying all this rent for a studio in New York and it's too much overhead, and I think that's what caused the podcast for them to take a break from it from now.
I thought he had the studio because he was also managing renting that space out to other podcasters, which would have made him additional revenue
Yeah.
streams, right?
Yes,
So
but
I think. Go
but he
ahead. I'm
didn't want
sorry.
to over he didn't want to overprice it. He mentioned something that he wanted to have a good price point for other podcasters to come through and record it because
Right.
he tried. I think he mentioned something that the average podcast studio, I think, just to shoot an episode for an hour is like $1,000,
That's
which I
ridiculous, and
agree.
that's not true.
But that's what he
That's
said.
not true.
These are things he said during this episode.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, look, maybe some studios do, but look, I think Savon had a really good idea with starting the podcast studio, taking over that space to rent it to other podcasters. Um, I don't know the reason that his show is going down, and I will talk to him privately about that. But uh, This isn't even a conversation about Savon or Elliot Wilson, even though that's what Danny has it titled. I'm telling you, everyone, keep your eyes open right now because I anticipate a exodus of established and significant podcasts going under because they're so used to getting licensing deals. And when that goes away, they never put any time or effort or energy into figuring out how to build a business. They just chased a licensing deal down. And when that ends, when the ad spends stop, what else do you have to lean on? And I think we're going to see the results of that within the next 3 months. And I would say 40% of the podcast market's going to crumble at the very least.
It sounds like he's getting a little aroused, man. What the fuck is going? You sound excited.
I mean, I am excited.
Yeah.
Danny, sometimes I come in here just to check on you. That's when I'm like more laid back. This is exciting stuff. And it's not like I'm excited to see failure. I'm excited for people to see some of the things that Joe and I have been communicating publicly start to take shape. It's like if you're not focused on the right thing, eventually these short term deals or transactions come to an end. And if you're not prepared
Mm.
with a sustainable business, you will go under.
Yeah, I also think of like, what if YouTube demonetized me? What would I do? That would be my,
Well, you have Patreon, so
yeah,
I think I know what you would do. See, you took heed to some of the advice from whoever it was. I'm not gonna have Joe or I take credit for that, but that's like you saw people that it worked for and you leaned into that. That's something that should be applauded.
yeah. But
Um,
YouTube is, it doesn't make as like the Patreon don't make as much as the YouTube. So even if I have a Patreon, it would be a big adjustment.
that's today.
Yeah, I know.
That's today, Danny. I look. I for you. I could see a world in 2 years from now where your entire business is Patreon or Substack or whatever it may be at that time, but where that's your only business and people clip it up and put it on socials and that's just your marketing, right? Like
Yeah.
there's you can't be stuck in today. You have to have a vision of where this goes based on the elements that you're able to see visibly and hear through other peers of yours. And if you're unable to do that, you're already dead. You may as well not start.
Evan, your hand is up, I think.
No, yeah, it was up. I wanted to ask Ian a question because he spoke to something earlier that I thought was really interesting about the check chasing part. How do you can you speak to like the mindset of like a podcaster who gets a deal offered that's 10x what they're already making
Yep.
and still having to make that decision of walking away that most 9 out of 10 podcasters as we're seeing would not make that choice? Like what's the mindset that goes behind that
Yeah.
being able to walk away from the most money you've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, it's you really just answered your own question. You're in a position where let's use Patreon as an example because it's familiar and you guys understand the difference. A subscription based podcast makes, and I'm making this up right now, guys. A subscription based podcast makes 10,000 a month on Patreon, but or 1,000 a month on Patreon, and then here comes Spotify or SoundCloud or Sirius and says we're going to give you 50,000 a month for the next 2 years, but you're under exclusive license to us. During this term, everything you create will live here for now and in perpetuity, and you have 30 days to make a decision. What runs through your mind is shit, I'm only making 10 now, I'm going to get 5 times that for the next 2 years. But what you're not seeing is the bigger decision. Hey Jazz, the bigger decision is that come in, you can come in here. The bigger decision is having belief in how far you're going to be able to scale your business with no limitations. These companies like the Spotify's and the Siriuses that come to you and say, "Here's this guaranteed amount." The first thought process I always has is if you're offering me 50,000 a month, well then fuck, you must be making 150,000 and giving me 50. So that gives me the that at least gives me the insurance mentally to say, okay, even if I turn this down, that means the market opportunity for me direct to fan could be 3 times greater than what they're offering me. If they're going to bet that on me, Don't you have to assume fairly that you're making them more than that if they could pay you that?
Yeah, and I think it kind of comes back to something you spoke on earlier, where you said about everybody's trying to start a business. And I guess, the assumption with starting a business is having a number where everybody kind of has a number in their head of if they make an X amount of money, they're good, they're set.
Right.
But I think when you're starting a business, I think people should start asking what's the mission versus what's the number.
I totally agree with. Who just said that? What's the mission versus what's the number? Who said that?
Evan.
Evan. That's dope. So it couldn't. She's downstairs. She's in the garage, Jules. First of all, that's absolutely a better question to ask, and you have to ask yourself secondary to that, like, am I in this for a short time or am I trying to make this my career? If you're in it for a short time, I don't necessarily think taking the bigger guaranteed out is the wrong choice. But if you plan on making this a long-standing profession, I think that you have to really calculate things. No worries. You have to calculate things outside of the monetary gain so that you could really put your mind to what you're after. Like if you're chasing money, you're always going to look at the bigger offer as more enticing than the longer road that may be more fruitful. Um, and then secondary to that is it is hard to turn down money that you don't have or have never had. And believe me, I've been in situations where I took the money as opposed to taking the longer road. And every single one of those times, I could tell you for certain it was a mistake. I learned from it, but it was a mistake. The times I chose the harder road with any of the partners that I have, it's always been more fruitful because you learn and you figure it out and you get better and stronger and you build something that's customized, tailored to your business. And that makes you the business as opposed to doing business, you become the business. So I look, it's not easy turning down money. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you make $5 a month on your podcast or 5 million. Being faced with those tough decisions is always going to be tough. You got to have a plan though, and you got to believe in what your plan is more than you believe in what offers come your way mid execution on any of your plans.
Yeah,
Another.
but Ian, you wouldn't always say I'm sorry, Daniel.
Now go ahead.
Ian, you wouldn't always say it's a mistake because I wouldn't say when you guys took the Spotify deal that it was a mistake. Like you guys learned a lot from that
No, that was
partnership with
the
Spotify.
Spotify deal was not a mistake. 2018 to 2020 was well, my journey with that starts before Spotify. I was studying everything going on at Complex during Everyday Struggle, like how they were making money, the ad sales, the streams, the passive ad revenue coming in from YouTube. I was studying. So I was looking at them like, oh shit, we could do this on our own. Right. So my journey with how to put together a network started 2016, 17 when we were doing Everyday Struggle. And then when we got to Spotify, they gave us the ability to leverage marketing power to make what seemed to be black market radio. And I say that literally. I feel like the word podcast was popularized by making it look like the black market version of terrestrial radio. Um, and that's how they weakened the value of it. That deal allowed us to look like we were doing a Hollywood movie rollout with our podcast that was being recorded in Parks's basement. That gave us the leverage to be like, look, everyone, it's bigger than you think. And so, and not only that, but we licensed our podcast in 2018. We never sold shit. They never got to keep anything. It was a license. So we got to walk away with the material after. So it was a short term 2 year commitment. But when we were at the tail end of that, I knew for certain we had to go direct to consumer because I just saw how big it was. And I started doing things like this. What if 1% of our audience will pay us directly? And the numbers were fucking crazy. And like that's the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. Not, hey, is this offer from this partner better than me grinding it out and doing subscriptions? It's like, do the math that the companies are doing. Don't do the math in your head that's making you drool like, oh, I can get a nicer car. or I can get a better studio, or I can get a, like, do the math that's actually being used to get you to sign a deal. And then you'll start to go, oh shit, you know what?
Yeah,
This
Or
deal doesn't
wait,
make sense for me.
do what they do and collect data.
Exactly. I mean, listen, to be fair, that's what we do too.
Yeah.
I Joe Budden Network and podcast, yes, it's an entertainment company. It's absolutely a network, but what gets spoken about less and less and less is that no, we're also a data company. Like, we're learning from the data that we collect. That's what's making us far more elite than some of the other programs that you see out there. Is I don't just look at the data and do nothing. I look at the data and act. Like, that's very much part of how you learn your audience. You learn who's watching, who's not, how long they're watching for, when they tune in, when they tune out, what they like, what they don't like. If you're not looking at that, you're really not in the business. You're just, it's a hobby.
yeah,
Yeah, what they
and I agree with you, Ian. Like, but correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Spotify deal, I assume that was the biggest deal the podcast received at that time before you got it.
Absolutely. There was no money before then. Like, that was very much, we needed that deal to even get on our feet and build a significant foundation of a business. Like, that was the start of it. That wasn't the start of the podcast. It was the start of commercializing the podcast.
Yeah, so what I would say with that, like, I don't think that's a deal you regret. You guys took the deal. It was the most money, but
It
it
was
had
that,
terms
that
that you
was the
guys
Evan. That
agreed. Like
was the
it was
best.
just licensing.
No, Chris, that was the
Yeah.
best deal that we got at the time, and it it worked because we structured it in a way where I knew it was going to work for us. The money that we got for the license, it was more than most podcasts got at that time, but that wasn't the hook for me. The hook was, and I won't use specific language, but just know that they put up an additional marketing fund for each year that we were there, that we got to choose how it was used to market us. And I knew that that was going to create value, add value to our IP for years to come in the future.
did you guys go into that deal knowing, like, because you kind of spoke on like we were getting the data, you were studying at Complex. Did you kind of go into that deal knowing that we're not going to be looking for another deal after this?
No,
We'll take one if it fits, but we're
no,
not looking for
no.
one.
I at that time, if you would have asked me, I probably would have said, we'll go back to Spotify, or we'll go to Amazon. Like, I wasn't thinking totally independent at that point. I was considering it, but I wasn't confident enough. Hold on, there's a car going by. I wasn't confident enough at that moment to say one way or the other. I was interested in D2C, but we went into the deal open minded. And I think at early stages, if anyone would have asked me what was your next move, I probably would have said something similar to what we're doing now. Early on. Later on, it was a different story. I was thinking something totally
Weren't
different.
y'all thinking of doing Apple exclusive, like Apple Patreon or
Well,
whatever?
Apple has subscriptions. Yeah, we've considered that too. That's been a consideration at certain points.
Why didn't you go with that?
I think at the time it was just they were taking too big of a percentage, and we personally look at Apple as a top of the funnel marketing tool. Like, it's the same way I look at YouTube. It's the same way I look at if we distribute through Spotify. It's like that can get a casual listener to
We lost the end.
that can get a I'm sorry, that can get a casual listener. Now I'm back. You hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we hear you.
I always look at Apple, YouTube, Spotify as top of the funnel marketing tools. I don't look at them as the place that you need to try to monetize right away. I think it's more of that's your marketing arm. And if you can get people interested in those places, then a small percentage of the people that get interested may trickle down into the, oh, I love this shit, I'm going to pay for it.
Okay, well, I gotta ask again. So, why do you think there's an exodus coming in the next few months for these podcasts?
Because I think an exodus is coming, because I don't think enough podcast businesses, networks, and conglomerates have learned how to actually build a self sustaining business around their shows. I think they've learned how to chase advertising and exclusive licensing deals, and that's dictated by the company that's giving you those deals. The second they say, all right, we're done spending in this category, you're left with nothing. And now you don't know how to build a business.
Yeah, I think yeah, I agree.
And
And I think you're saying
I think that
they're
runway is
relying too much on ad company. They're relying too much on ad company instead of going straight to consumer with the fans.
Mhm.
You're like on the you're at the will of these companies that who budgets could change at any time instead of going direct to consumer.
Right. Like one day Spotify could be like, all right, we're not acquiring podcasts anymore. We got Rogan. We have, a couple of top 10 podcasts. We don't need to spend any more than we already are on acquiring licensing deals or buyout deals for podcasts. Stop spending. And the second that happens, I don't know what their market share is in podcasting, but let's call it 10 or 15%. 10 or 15% of the total podcast market could be wiped out with one decision of a company like Spotify. And the same applies across the board with other companies like Sirius and, other competing platforms that host and do deals with podcasts. So, and not just podcasts, but podcast networks that have 100 titles underneath them. So I think we're reaching this tipping point at this point where uh, a lot of these companies got the information they need. They know what works and what doesn't for them. And I think you're going to start to see a big pullback on spending. And that's going to ultimately lead to people being asked up, not knowing what to do.
Mm, mm. I also made this point in the video I did about the need to know is like some of these people have jobs where they make more money than they do in podcasting. That's why like Wheezy, her studio probably makes way more than her podcast ever will. So people just leave it, and I think
I
that.
agree. I agree with that too. But that's a product of people diversifying and then committing in directions that are outside of podcasting. But for people that want to create an ecosystem and an economy around their show, or shows, plural, I think the rug is about to be pulled on half the industry, and those people are going to be left not knowing what the next move is. And I think that's for me, it's not scary. It's I feel bad that people didn't want to invest their time and energy into turning their own IPs into fruitful businesses. They wanted to take the easiest way to affirmation and solidifying that they're a viable podcast. They're a good podcast because they got a deal, and that short term mentality is going to cost them everything in the long term.
All right, so let's say I'm Jerry and Sally, and I had this deal with L'Oreal shampoo, and they did like a DEI buy, and they
Yeah,
gave me $80,000. But I'm like, hey, Ian, I just lost it. My earnings are now gonna go from 100,000 to 20,000. How do I survive this? I can't. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was making 180,000, and now I'm making way less.
you want me to tell you what I would do?
Yeah.
I would downsize. I would go back to the basics. I would investigate how I can invest the 20,000 I do have remaining from the 80 they committed into building a direct to consumer platform. You could do that directly building an app. There's a million tools that are like press and play. You spend a couple $100 and you could have an app up and running. There's third party distribution companies that are transactional, like the Patreons and other companies similar to them in the same field. And you start investing in yourself instead of letting the company that you were doing business in take away all the risk. Like there's risk in running and owning a business. It doesn't matter what you do. If you believe that your podcast or property is valuable, then invest in it the same way you would if you started a fucking HVAC business or a plumbing business or a law firm. Or it's like there's no difference to me.
But like I get 5,000 views. I'm not gonna generate the same you do. I don't have a Joe Budden. I don't have a flip. How am I gonna make money? I needed that ad. I can't.
You didn't need that ad. You
I,
only needed it once you got it, and you said, this is something I deserve. I'm going to keep getting it. Let me stop focusing on how I earn 80,000 directly from the fan base that I have, because I could give you a million scenarios where I have 1,000 people that make me 80,000 a month,
Okay.
but no one wants to actually put in the time to investigate how I could do that. If
How
you
would you
sell
do that?
if Okay, if you sell a subscription for $10 a month and a T-shirt once a month and a ticket to a show once a month, I would say you're probably at like $40 per head. So if you have 1,000 people, you just guaranteed yourself 40,000 a month. If those 1,000 people are committed and dedicated enough to roll with you, if you've incentivized them enough, 1,000 people could change your life forever. But people don't think like that. They'd rather see someone come and offer them money that they don't have to figure out how the economics work with that 80,000. What is the company that's paying you 80,000 paying you for? If you knew that, would you need to take the deal, or would you go find a product that you could sell to the customer yourself and make the lion's share?
Mm.
It sounds like it's an ego issue where instead of asking 1,000 people 1,000 times for $10, I'd rather
There you
ask
go.
one company one time for yeah.
There you go. And it's not just that. It's not just ego. It's a step above. It's if a big company says I'm cool, I'm cool. As opposed to I'm going to the thrift store, I'm gonna make this fucking $8 outfit look like I'm fly because I know I can put something together and I have flavor. They rather have the Supreme jacket and can't put an outfit together and think because they're wearing the logo that that means they made it.
I
Like
mean, prestige
it's
matters
to
to
the wrong
some.
to the wrong people.
I mean, well, they may value prestige
There you go.
improperly.
Right.
Be-
So
because you look up to these businesses the whole time, so you've always wanted to be a part of
there you
a
go.
NBA, a Nike, or whatever. So the fact that they've reached out and recognized you, that is a payment within itself for some people versus actual.
Which it is. I'll acknowledge that. I mean, look, it is. It's nice to be recognized by people and companies that you look up to yourself. I agree with that. I just think there's limits to all of that, and I feel like as we continue to educate ourselves in this free market where you can do anything you please, accomplish anything you want, as long as you put in the work. I think the mentality at some point has to change where the creators and the business partners and the people involved in creating this IP have to turn and look in the mirror and say, okay, am I taking these deals because they're the best deal for my future, or am I taking this deal because I want the easy way out?
But I don't see you like. How about the life? Before we get to Tylee, how about the life aspect of it? Like people need to make money. These ideas you have take months or years to settle in. I
Yeah.
have a family. I have a I have to go to like. So you're
And go
suggesting?
work on the side of McDonald's for your family. Like I'm
Okay.
not telling people what to do.
All
Like
right. So do this in tandem with a real job.
yeah, exactly. Like people are embarrassed to say that they have a real job and they do a podcast, which is like that's embarrassing in itself that you're embarrassed to have a job. Like how the fuck are you ashamed of having a job to support something you believe in? If anything, that's the smartest path. That's
Speaks to
your
the work ethic.
money. Instead of taking someone else's money and having strings attached to it, you could use your own money to do it the way you want to do it ultimately, which I think is the only way you actually succeed. The second people have input on your creative, I think you're putting your creative at risk and your business at risk indirectly.
Tylee.
Hello. I actually just coming up because I was very happy to hear the conversation. I tell people all the time I would rather have 300 people who will watch a full episode, who will follow everything,
There you
comment
go.
everything, than millions and millions of followers who saw one clip, watched it, and now they just follow me and never interact with nothing. And I also don't think it's like people chasing fame or chasing a big brand. I think they just want instant gratification. Like I've been doing what I've been doing, and I know other people do it for just so long. And not big numbers, not big things, but I feel happy. I tell people all the time, I love to talk. If I could get paid, would I get paid to work my office job to have a podcast that nobody fucking watched? I would literally still do it. And I think when it comes to podcasting or a lot of things like that, people don't do it because they love to do it. They think this is the quick, fast thing, the
I
next
agree
TikTok
with you.
thing. And it's like, it's so much more that goes into it. So if you don't actually love it and doing it for yourself or for like the love of the game, it's you're always going to be willing to sell anything for a big dollar and it doesn't matter. And I always use examples of people like Tyler the creator and stuff like that. People wonder like where are all these fans or even Russ, like people who do it for themselves. And then like I live in Minnesota. When Russ came here, he sold out the Armory and the line was around the block, like wrapped around 4 times. I had no idea who the fuck he was, but you had all of these core people who were listening to you because you were putting out songs every fucking day, doing it on your own, staying true to yourself and not selling it to nobody. So there's value of like playing the slow game and doing it. It's like it builds character, like a little discernment. It put a little sugar on you.
Uh, Ty Lee, it's Ty Lee, right? Or Ty Lee?
Yes, sir.
I love that mentality. I think that's the only thing that works. I don't care what anyone says. I feel like if you're not passionate about it, you'll be here today, gone tomorrow. The second you run into the first obstacle, you're quitting. The second something falls from under you that you can't control, you're quitting. You have to really give a shit about it and have a passion for it. And guess what? Any business is a slow climb. Every business is going to cost you money. Every business is going to, create problems that you were not expecting. But if you give a shit, you'll figure it out. And if you don't, then you're going to quit. And that's, I think we're going to see a lot more of that because people came in this like hip
Gold, the
like
gold
like a
rush.
gold rush. You got to think about it. It's like, back. Listen. I only know this from mentors and partners of mine now, like a DJ Premier. He's like, back in the day, you used to be able to go to the label. Like, if DJ Premier went to a label and said, "Yo, I know this." He went to Virgin Records and said, "I know this guy. He's ill. He raps. He can kill it." You used to be able to get people deals on speculation, like record deals. That's what happened with podcasting. It looked a little different, but that's what happened. And now that gold rush sort of moment is over because they already mined all the gold. They got everything they need. And now they don't need to play games with thousands of podcasts. I think it'll be condensed into like, okay, who actually gives a shit? Who actually fortified themselves and is immovable? That's who's going to stay around. And everyone else is going to, like I said, the word is exodus.
So when people have like this conversation about podcasts being oversaturated, I feel like it's oversaturated by celebrities. I don't think there's a lot of like average people who like conversation, who like commentary that have a podcast or have a podcast that's really big. And I think that's like the illusion. If you're a celebrity and start a podcast, you just kind of cheated. You have access to interesting people to have interesting conversations with. You already have a certain kind of following, or at least you know somebody who can put the money behind you. I don't think it's like oversaturated of like original creators or people who just live like an actual everyday life, like work a 9 to 5, probably broke, ugly and shit. Like I don't think there's a lot of people who do that.
Well, I don't know the actual split, but I will tell you that I agree with you that celebrities in general looked at podcasting like a quick, easy way to uh, make a deal when maybe their primary career or their craft that they came into the business wasn't going so well. They're like, oh, I'll just go do a podcast. I'll get a deal and, I'll be able to sustain for a short amount of time. I mean, our business, for the most part, is built off of, at least in the music side, it's built off of chasing down advances so that you could create a project. So that mentality still runs rampant today. And it's something I think needs to be rewired from the ground up. Artists, their teams, the agents, the managers, everyone. It's like it's fucking disgusting, and it's such a losing game. So I agree with you, and I think there's a lot of room for the guy who's in his basement, like we were, who's actually putting in the effort right now, building a platform, consistently putting out great quality content that's starting to garner real fans and will be bigger than us one day. I mean, that's the hope. I really do hope that we somehow inspire a ton of people to give this a go, and that someone blows us out of the water, because that would be like an honor, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like we haven't talked about the creative. How do you get to the part where you make good creative content when that's a lot of people are just sitting down and talking, thinking they're good.
When what? You cut out.
A lot of I'm trying to talk about the creative part because we've talked about the
What'd you say,
business.
Danny?
Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I hear
I
you.
can hear you.
Danny?
Can, oh, he can't. Can
Danny. Danny.
Who's that? Coffee?